Here.
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 Berwick. Here. Perry.
Here.
Here.
Here. Stevenson. Here. Martin.
Here.
Here.
Here. All right, do I have any additions or deletions from the voting session agenda?
Make a motion to remove 1 and 2 from the agenda.
Motion to remove number 1 and number 2, the H&N Investments and BID Public Square LLC. Is there a second? Yeah, no. Well, I guess we'll do one time for number 1. Is there a second for number 1? Second by Mr. McDermott. All in favor?
On the question, Chair?
Go ahead.
Why wouldn't we remove this? That's all. Just for the. There's one specification in everything that's laid out that it says that it's not applying for that type of words. Since we're the body that approves words vote on it, and that wasn't voted on, but that's in our stipulation. So that's concerning since we approved other words.
Anybody else have any questions on this? Let's do roll call on this.
No. Yes.
Yes.
McDermott. Perry.
No.
Mr. Sabatino.
No.
Smith. No. Stevenson. No. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
No.
No. All right. Is there a motion to remove number 2? All right. Is there a second on that motion? Second by Mr. Moore.
Another question. I think it's a good idea to remove that. That came pretty recently to the council, and it's a lot of money. I think they're asking for $2 million, which is solely for the restaurant next door, special project that wasn't part of the original project. And I believe that was that separate project was suggested by Mayor Brown of Wilkes-Barre, according to Mr. Watson's presentation. I just think that $2 million for a very high-end restaurant is a lot of money the county would be giving. I know I, for one, couldn't afford to eat there. I don't know how many people in this room could afford to eat there, but $2 million just seems like an awful. That's my second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mrs. Greenwood, by Mr. Shanowski. No. Ms. Gavitt.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott. No. Mr. Perry.
No.
Mr. Sabatino.
No.
Smith. No. Stevenson. No. Martin.
Yes.
No.
Mr. Haas.
No.
And Mr. Lombardo.
Yes. Okay. Any other deletions from the voting session agenda? I actually have one myself. If somebody would entertain a motion for this, I'd like to delete under number 7, J, the opioid committee council member. Just for full disclosure, there are 2 people that have interest in that committee. One of them is myself, and I don't feel comfortable appointing myself without a resolution. I'd rather have the entire council vote on that instead of me just saying I prefer. So I'd like to entertain the motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we remove under agenda items for council item number 7J. Opioid.
Second.
All right. I guess.
I don't know. Sure, sir. Is there a reason why?
I just don't feel comfortable because I want to be on the committee as well. I know Ms. Stevenson also wants to be on the committee. I would just prefer for council to make the appointment rather than myself just saying I'd like to be the person.
On the question, did we do a resolution last time
for Mr. Mitchell?
We did do a resolution for Mr. Mitchell, but that was upon the creation of the committee, I think. We did.
We just created
Okay.
the committee with the resolution.
If you guys don't want to support that.
On the question, I think it's good.
I just prefer to do that. I just rather have it be a vote of the entire council rather than just myself. That's all right. So. Yeah, the each one. That's all. All right. So there's a first and a second. Roll call.
Excuse me, Mr. Liscavige.
Yes.
Mr. Dermott. Mr. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Smith. Yes. Stevenson. Yes. Thornton.
Yes to remove.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Mr. Kowski. Yes. Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Mr. 10 yes, no,
Madam Clerk.
That's unanimous. We vote.
Okay. Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to adopt these.
So moved.
Second.
All right. First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? New agenda is now adopted. Thank you very much. Okay. Public comment. I have several slips. First, we'll have Mr. Casey.
I'm the first speaker. I wasn't ready for that, but
Sorry.
I wanted to make a few comments about the importance of a hotel project that we're here to vote on tonight. And, you know, the way that I see it right now, since the demolition of the Sterling, I've looked at an empty lot for 8 or 10 years. I don't know how long, a very long time. I know that the county has a grant that they're not in compliance with because we haven't used it for its intended use yet. And this may help alleviate that. We have a huge need for downtown hotel space. And so, you know, I've worked in downtown Wilkes-Barre since 1981, since I got out of Wilkes. And I've been through a lot of cycles in downtown Wilkes-Barre. And I must say that, you know, I'm past chairman of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. I worked at the Chamber when I first got out of Wilkes. This appears to me to be a very viable project from what I know of it. And I've done a lot of research. There's public and private dollars in it. We have $2 million just about of private money in it already. That shows a strong commitment. We haven't had a flagship hotel in downtown Wilkes-Barre since the Sheraton Crossgates left town. And what that caused was that we haven't been able to have a convention in downtown Wilkes-Barre. We're taken off the list for consideration. And anybody old enough, like I am, to remember, back in the 80s, we had the Lions Club National Convention. We had the Gamonfugani National Convention. We had 2 years in a row where we were the finish line for the Great Race, which was a race across the country with antique cars. And it was on the 4th of July, made 4th of July, a huge celebration in downtown Wilkes-Barre. All of that resulted in tremendous amount of money to the businesses in downtown Wilkes-Barre and to the residents here. And so I think that flagship hotel will be very much needed. I'm on the board of Wilkes. I spoke with an official from Wilkes the other day who gave me the need for their rooms. There is a need at Wilkes for 5,000 room nights a year. And he told me that Kings has a similar amount, probably about 4,500 room nights a year, which would be at an 80% requirement for or calculation for occupancy. It would be
Thank you, Mr. Casey.
half of the annual. I didn't get through, so okay.
Sorry, if you want to come
That's
and speak
okay.
again at public comment at the end.
All right, thank you. But I'm very much in support of this, and I hope that you see the benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Mr. Skeen.
Yes, I just want to correct one statement that Mr. Casey made. The county
had nothing to do with spending money or anything at the last Sterling site. That was City Vest. So we were a pass-through from HUD, but we didn't do anything wrong with HUD or anything that would lead us to have to do another project to spend that money.
All right, thank you, Mr. Skeen. Mr. Newman, Larry Newman.
Thank you. My name is Larry Newman, and I run the Diamond City Partnership, Wilkes-Barre's downtown management organization. I want to connect tonight's funding request to the broader context of downtown's post-pandemic recovery. When 2020 began, 10% of all of the jobs in Luzerne County were located in downtown Wilkes-Barre, and the downtown economy was powered by office workers. Now, while there were other pillars, arts, dining, entertainment, the colleges, Boscovs, and a downtown housing sector that added more than 1,000 new residents during the last decade, the office market was our foundation. That foundation has been rocked. The total number of employee visits to downtown in 2023 was 56% of the 2019 total. And it's unlikely that the office sector here or anywhere else is going to return to the way it was before. So we've had to set a new course. We're working to shape a downtown that people are going to visit because they want to be here, not because they're required to be here. Residential development is a big part of that. So are the colleges, the concerts and festivals, dining, nightlife, and the arts. So is curb appeal, making downtown safe, clean, and attractive. But we're missing a big piece of the puzzle because downtown's lodging sector is so underdeveloped. Today, downtown has one hotel with 72 keys. That means we can't host the larger conferences that go to Scranton or other cities with multiple downtown hotel options. It also means that most downtown visitors, whether they're here for business or leisure, college visits or Kirby shows, stay elsewhere. Travelers want choices, while event bookers are increasingly looking for walkable downtowns offering options for lodging, dining, and recreation. We've got the dining and the amenities, but we don't have the room count. If we broaden downtown's hotel offerings, we'll increase beneficial foot traffic, bring new customers to downtown businesses, and create new synergies with downtown attractions and venues. Induced demand means that when you add new hotels to an underserved market, you grow room nights for everyone, which also increases hotel tax revenue. And it can help downtown rebound. Data from across the United States shows that downtowns with higher percentages of employment in leisure and hospitality also have had the higher overall recovery rates. A more balanced mix of uses ultimately makes the office market more viable. But to unlock this potential, we have to invest in it. Downtowns with more robust visitor sectors, like Lancaster or Scranton, didn't occur by accident. They're the result of substantial public investment over decades into the planning and development of hotels, meeting space, visitor attractions, and the public realm. If we want to achieve similar results here, we have to get similar commitments. So please know that by choosing to invest in enhancing downtown's hospitality sector, you'll be driving the recovery of Luzerne County's largest city and adding long-term value to the county economy. Thank you.
Can everybody please silence their cell phones if they're on? Mr. Berwick.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Berwick. I am the...
Oh, Mr. Berwick, what's your municipality you live in?
Kingston.
Sorry.
That's okay. I love Kingston. I've lived in the area since 1980. I am the advisory board chairman for Luzerne County's Visitor and Tourism Bureau, and have been on the board for 15 years. I'm also the new board chair of Diamond City Partnership, along with working with Mr. Newman. So I'm here to support the hotel project as well. I'm firmly aware that we need more hotel rooms downtown. The schools, like were mentioned by Mr. Casey, about 5,000 room nights and 3,000 room nights by Wilkes and Kings is tremendously lost to us when they either go up to the mall area or they go out of the area altogether to do business in downtown Wilkes-Barre. So I couldn't be more in favor of this. Of all the projects we're working on to increase the quality of life in downtown Wilkes-Barre and to have more amenities for the 1,500 people that have moved into downtown Wilkes-Barre over the last 5 years, that's our growth sector. So these people have friends, these are graduate students from both schools whose parents come in and families come in. They need a place to stay downtown. The quality of the units that they're talking about is also a very big factor. We want a nice place for people to stay and enjoy the amenities that we offer. So we have the Keystone Games, we have Rock in the River, we have Riverfest, we have the Fine Arts Fiesta. All these bring tons of people into downtown Wilkes-Barre, and I want to see them stay in downtown, eat in downtown, and shop in downtown. We want to make sure that Boscov stays viable, and all the other retailers that are either coming in or are here now have an opportunity to do their business with people that are coming into the downtown area, not just at the mall area or up by the arena. Now, interesting enough, the hotel tax is 5% for the county. 1% of that goes to promotions for the Visitors Bureau. The more people that are in beds in Wilkes-Barre City, the more tax dollars are brought into Luzerne County. It's imperative in my mind that we don't lose sight of this. Regardless of the political issues or what differences people have, it's imperative that Wilkes-Barre stay viable and have these opportunities to have more people come in. So just like the arena situation 15 or 20 years ago, when everyone wanted to deal with the arena yes or the arena no, arena yes won out. What has happened to that area in our county? Tons of restaurants, tons of businesses, Walmart, all these places, banks, food locations. Let's face it, that we need to grow this community and be strong and competitive.
Thank you, Mr.
And that downtown hotel will definitely make a major difference. And I support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment in the audience? Mr. Grantee.
Joe Grantee, Plains. Just wanted to make a comment. This is the first time I've been here with the new council, and I'm still having the same old problems of not being able to hear. We've been promised that we were going to get some kind of a speaker system so that the people in the room could hear, and it's being ignored. And I'd like somebody to commit to it. I want to make a motion.
Ms. Pecora actually has it.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah, Ms. Crocomo also has some information about it. We had addressed this several times. There's been some questions about it, and it is being addressed, and it's going to start obviously very soon. So they said this coming week. So
it is.
There you go. You'll be able to hear better.
It is. As a matter of fact, the equipment and the product should be delivered on Friday and installed by next week. We're committed to do this. We don't have control of when we receive the equipment, but as soon as we receive the equipment, it will be rectified.
All right, thank you. Anybody else for public comment in the audience? All right, anybody on the Zoom? I see there's one number. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody else? Yeah, is that Mr. Rabo? Go ahead, Mr. Rabo.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Rabo speaking of Hazleton. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to address the on-agenda item for the Hotel Sterling. As I sent to council in an email about the example that was used in their presentation about the Yorktown Hotel. The Yorktown Hotel was not mostly publicly financed, as you and the other council members and the county manager have probably read. It was up to 10% publicly financed, and their project was 3/4 of the way done before the COVID outbreak happened. So I just want that clarification made for the record, because during that meeting, it was stated that this project, this Hotel Sterling project, was similar to the Yorktown Hotel, which it clearly is not. So that I just want to make that perfectly clear. Also, Mr. Chairman and members of council, I would like to make it clear that this could have all been averted if the team of developers would have brought forward the documentation about their funding as well as the environmental issues from the very beginning. If that were to occur, we wouldn't be at this point. And also with the assurances regarding the funding, because yes, City Vest did burn Luzerne County. They did. Let's just be brutally honest here. They burned Luzerne County taxpayers. So it's obvious that the county taxpayers have trust issues with this money. So why can't the developers go and just give an assurance to the county taxpayers that this money will be utilized for the purpose it's intended? The scope of the project's not going to change, and if it changes, that the county be informed. That's all. And also the UDAG money, Mr. Chairman, the money I helped find should have been going to county taxpayers in terms of their projects for their municipalities, or also the county owned properties. So that being said, I think that the council should be very cautious and judicious about consideration of this project. We all want the city of Wilkes-Barre to prosper and all the cities in our county and municipalities to prosper, but we need to do it the smart way. We need to have reputable developers that actually care about our municipalities and our downtowns. That's what we're looking for here. And I hope that is made into consideration. And as far as the Blighted Property Committee, Mr. Chairman, as you well know, I hope that the county manager and the IT take care of that issue about the Blighted Property Committee with the redevelopment story. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Anybody else on the Zoom? All right. Motion to approve the minutes from the January 9th, 2024 voting session. Motion by Ms. McDermott, second by Mr. Wilovich. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Motion's adopted. All right. Number one, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing Luzerne County Manager to negotiate an agreement with H&N Investments LLC related to the project at the former Sterling site.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Lescavage.
Second.
Second by Mr. Thornton.
Mr. Chair, before we proceed on the question, I want to refer to the resolution in the packet on page 17, the proposed resolution, particularly section 2 down at the bottom, and the last item on the page, item 14, which discusses the indemnification that would be a requirement of the developers. And I want to just reiterate what I said in the past here. That's a serious roadblock for the project going forward, because not to the developers it's not, but the lending institutions or whoever's thinking about loaning this money, that's a big hindrance when money is encumbered, which is supposed to be a grant, which is encumbered, and that would seriously jeopardize the project. With my understanding, the project most likely will fall flat on its face if that's invoked. And I want to say that it's not necessary to have that on there. And I'm going to say this because this hasn't been said in the past. The biggest concern, I think, of this council that I heard over the past few months was they're for this project in general for all the good reasons that were stated here again tonight by the public. However, some are concerned that HUD will come after us to pay back this $6 million that they gave us over a decade ago. Well, the truth is, not only is that most likely never going to happen because they haven't come after it 10 years, but if it did, we just pay it back. Where do we pay it back from? Not from the taxpayers, not at all. In 6 years, we have a windfall of $26 million. I'm not sure everybody's aware of that,
because of the massive debt this county incurred over the decades prior to home rule. We're going back over 12 years. The previous county commissioners ran up a massive debt of $466 million that the county has to pay back. For 12 years, the previous council members, and Mr. Perry's been here the longest now, could attest to this. This county council's been paying down that massive debt every year. Our debt service, just like your home mortgage, might be $1,000 or $2,000 a month. Our debt service is $26 million a year out of our budget every year that goes just to pay those loans. We haven't borrowed any money since in 12 years. And that's a compliment to the prior council members that sat here and exercised extreme discipline, fiscal discipline, and working through tight spots to balance a budget without borrowing money, which was the norm for decades here in this county. So guess what happens 6 years from now? 2030, all the debt is erased. No more debt. Every year we're accustomed to taking $26 million of our budget and paying off loans. Now we're going to have $26 million available. If HUD wants this money, first of all, those are negotiable terms. Usually you negotiate that down. They haven't looked for it in 10 years. The normal practice is negotiate it down to $4 million or so. And we give them a minimal payment for 5 years, 50 grand a year. And then if they want the money 6 years from now, we give them the $6 million. And we still have the other 20 million to do whatever this then sitting council wants to do. They could lower county taxes on the taxpayers with that 20 million. They could do a lot of things. Repair all the roadways, the bridges in the county. But that payback provision to HUD, which in my opinion will never happen, especially if a hotel's built there and created permanent jobs. No HUD official is going to come to town and say, wow, we need to get that money back. Look what they did. They built a beautiful hotel, provided permanent jobs for everybody. I can't see that happening. But if they ask for the money, we give it to them. We say, yeah, we'll have it for you. We'll give you a minimal payment and we'll give it back to you. So there's a big windfall coming to the county 6 years from now, and 7 years, and 8 years. We have that 26 million every year after that. Okay, so I don't think that clause is necessary, because the only thing we were worried about that I heard about recent months was we might have to pay HUD back, and we have to keep this separate pot of money called UDAG money, which, by the way, came to this county decades ago in the 80s and 90s. We've been sitting on this UDAG fund for decades, doing nothing with it. The fear that we might have to pay HUD back someday. Are we going to sit here 10 and 20 years from now, fearful that we might have to pay them back and we move forward on nothing? I mean, it's unfathomable to me that we're sitting on this and not moving forward. We're at a crossroads here tonight. Either we're going to vote up or we're going to vote down on this motion. And the way I look at it, if we voted down, it's been a dirty dust bowl for 10 years. And we voted down, it's likely going to be a muddy quagmire for the next 10 years. And if not, and council has no say in this at all, neither do the residents or the voters, the owner of that lot could simply just turn it into a revenue source. Build a Wawa, build a Turkey Hill, a Sheets. We'll have a gas station there on the corner, and we'll have all the people that live on the square, public square, coming over to hang out around that place. And we have no say in that because it's zoned appropriately. He could put that up tomorrow. And that's what we're stuck with. And we have no parking garage either, which we sorely need. So I hate to go that way. I've been disappointed a little bit my last 2 years on council, and that we really didn't get a whole lot done. We haven't moved forward with a lot of progress. Yeah, we were given 112 million from the feds for ARPA funding. That's not us. We were passed through, they gave it to us, and we gave it out to the people. But we, on the county council, haven't really moved forward with any kind of major initiative. And I got to tell you, on my drive down here to the courthouse tonight, one thing was ringing in my head. There's a term commonly bantered around to describe Luzerne County and Northeast PA. And some of the older people in the room know it well. The term, it's derogatory, it's insulting. They refer to us people here as having coal miner mentality. Now, for the younger people, coal miner mentality is not a complimentary term. It's not referring to the hard work and the work ethic my grandfathers and my great-grandfathers had. It's not referring to that at all. 120 years ago, my grandparents came from Germany and Ireland. And some of the people sitting around this table have ancestors that came from Italy, Lithuania, Poland. And these people didn't have an education. I was thinking of this coming down. And because they had no education, they were considered stupid people. And outside our area, in our region, it became well known that this area had a coal miner mentality, which meant you were dumb, you were stupid, and you just worked for nothing, and you worked for peanuts. Well, that is long past because those people are deceased a long time ago. So what I'm saying here is the term coal miner mentality now applies to you and you and me. It doesn't mean stupid anymore. What a coal miner mentality is that we can't stop stumbling over ourselves. We can't move forward in this area. We're stagnant. We're not progressive. We can't see into the future. We get nothing done. And I detest that term, and I hate when they say that to me. I do go to Connecticut, the very wealthy areas of Connecticut and Jersey, where my former college friends live now, and are very successful, and they even call it coal miner mentality, Northeast PA, and I hate it. And I'm trying to get rid of it. I detest the term. I hope we don't go that route. We have an opportunity here tonight to encourage and promote this project, which let's look at it. We'll take that ugly site, which looks like a dump in a landfill. You know, people that go by it every day, you get used to it. But outsiders that come here, they look at that and go, "Ooh, geez, how long has that been there? For a month or two?" No, that's been there for 10 years. Terrible looking, terrible. So we have an opportunity here to, by the way, this project goes forward, it immediately creates for a couple of years high-paying construction jobs. Union hall jobs are going to be utilized there. And then after that, permanent jobs for 70, 80 years in the hotel complex. What's wrong with that? They all pay taxes, like the one gentleman said tonight, Mr. Berwick. $5% tax, everybody's staying there. Goes to the county. Why are we looking the other way and saying no to all this? I think HUD is no longer an objection, in my opinion. We pay it back. If they want it, we pay it back. They're not going to ask us for it. They haven't asked for it in 10 years. But if they do, we pay it back. So I just hope and pray tonight that my colleagues can see it that way. And I'm for progress. I'm for going forward and making the downtown look beautiful, providing extra hotel space and helping these good people out. But my amendment here, Mr. Chair, I'd like to put an amendment out, make a motion to amend the resolution to eliminate item number 14 off the resolution, which would require an indemnification to the developer back to the county.
All right, there's a motion for an amendment to remove number 14 in section 2. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a second. Any discussion on the amendment?
Question, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Haas.
Because I think that's very attractive to those of us who right down to this very last hour are on the fence. Mr. Thornton talked about a coal miner mentality. We have a coal baron mentality here also in Luzerne County, where fat cats have been here and they've abused our labor, abused our goodwill and our tax dollars. And I'm not saying that the current people here that are putting this deal forward are like that. However, I sat on this council and watched this council give away a lot of money to questionable entities in Lourdes. I've seen that. I was here at the table, voted against it. I think we're rightfully skeptical with any of these questions. And I think that indemnification, a lot of members really had, that was a big question for some people at this table about the indemnification. I'd like to hear from the principals here, if they could speak, would that be a deal breaker? Because ultimately what we're looking at here are the parameters to allow Manager Crocomo to really negotiate the finer details. That's what this is tonight. So I think we have to just agree on these major components. I've got about 3 or 4 other questions, but Is that appropriate this time? Could we ask, and I know it's a voting session.
I was going to have Manager Crocomo speak to some of these stipulations, if that's okay. Manager Crocomo, are you okay with that?
Because
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you mind speaking to a couple of these stipulations?
if I could just
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just before you go, Ms. Grover, because I know last week everybody came and they gave we had unanswered questions. So I just think, I know it's a voting session. I think it's appropriate if they need to speak to some of this, but.
Okay. Would you mind if I had her speak to this first?
No,
because she'll explain a little bit. Maybe that'll answer some questions. If not, they can certainly come up and speak as well. Go ahead.
So we'll start with the indemnification term. There are certain council members that articulated to myself and Attorney Skeen that they had apprehensions about the use of the $6 million and the potential of paying back HUD the amount owed, and that in order to go forward with approving the expenditure to both or one or either of the projects, that an indemnification clause would need to be placed in the agreement, meaning that if HUD would pursue the county for repayment, that if the money was granted to these projects, that they would indemnify us. Obviously, there's a school of thought that HUD is not going to pursue the county. That's a reasonable thought, which means that the indemnification clause would not be put into effect, because there would be no monies that HUD would require. So we added that in at the request of some of the council members to basically protect the county if there needs to be a repayment. Obviously, if the repayment is due in 2029 and 2030, we'll be in very good shape because our debt payment wouldn't be due. But I believe there are certain council members that believe between now and then we would have to protect the county. The same thing goes with number 13 for Alerta, that there were council members who didn't want either of the developers to come in and ask the county later on for Alerta, because they are receiving county funds. It's my understanding with the indemnification, and I believe Mr. Blockson indicated in his presentation that he agreed to indemnify the county. And my last conversation with Mr. Baruch was that he does as well. Although there may be some terms that he wants attached to the and finality attached to the indemnification. I believe that Mr. Bloxton agreed not to ask for Alerta. And my last conversation with Mr. Baruch, he agreed as well. If that's something different, then I asked him to say that. Council members also wanted a contribution from another public or private grant of $500,000, which would reduce the amount of monies that the county would have to expend. Of course, both developers are taking the position that they have matches, whether it's through the RACB, and if they're contributing their own monies, that would be a match. The job creation really is something that would had our position with HUD, if HUD would come after the county for repayment. that we would ask a report for 3 years after the completion of the project. The environmental phase 1 report, I know that Mr. Baruch provided that to the county. We did provide that to all the council members. The request came from Councilman Hawes. He has some concerns about the environmental impact of that project. So phase 1 was provided, and a geotechnical report was also provided to council as well. I'm not sure that that's applicable to the hotel on the square, but if it is, we want the same information. For the Gateway project, the DEP is not involved yet. That may certainly come once they open up the ground, but as of right now, there are no DEP requirements on that project. The flood protection certification, that's pretty standard in these type of agreements because we've had some very destructive flooding. Number 8, the construction plans and the contract documents, we want to see them. These are also standard protections in these type of agreements. Number 7, the project is subject to the U.S. Steel Procurement Act. That's also another standard term in these types of agreements. Number 6 is the construction will be publicly bid and advertised using prevailing wages. That I believe was also a request of council members, and that also is fairly standard language in grant monies that are given to projects. In the resolution regarding the Gateway, the county will release the funds in 2 phases. The first phase will include the completion of the shell, and the second phase will be for the remainder of the work. Obviously, if the shell is created, the project is going forward in a successful way. So that was a request of the developers on the Gateway project, and it seems like a reasonable term, given that once the shell is created, they're pretty much at the end of the project, and which would mean that the monies from the county would be the final monies used. For the hotel on the square, there was a request that $500,000 be given at the signing of the agreement, and then there will be phases as the money is released. Number 3 is a given. Both developers are in agreement that the construction is with a nationally recognized flagged hotel. Number 2 is the construction has to be completed in 36 months. This doesn't include the garage. The garage is using ARPA funds, so those funds have to be complete. That would have to be completed within the time period of the ARPA requirements of December 26. The construction in 36 months seems like a fair time period to have the hotel built based on the representations that were made by the developer. And number 1 is boilerplate that the contract will be in writing. So I don't know if there's any other questions on that.
Thank you, Manager Crocomo. Does anybody else have any questions?
We didn't get an answer.
Go ahead.
Mr. Haas had asked if they would still be able to do the project with number 14 being in there.
All right, Mr. Baruch, would you like to come up and speak to this? Members of the public, could you please?
Just speak to it.
So question here.
Yeah. So, question was number 14. It talks about an identification. And I thought the developer said that that would be a deal breaker if that were put in. And I think it makes a lot of us here at the table feel a lot better, but
well,
is that something you can swing?
Well, I understand the request for it. I had reached out to our bank that we've been dealing with on this, and they sent me a response back indicating that this can't be just treated as a straight grant, that they would have to make certain alterations, perhaps setting up a reserve fund that would be set aside in case the funds were called back, which would, I don't want to get technical, but it would, basically we'd have $3 million more that we're responsible for as an insurance policy to cover the $3 million if it's called back. So, and there were some other things too. It gets into real technical banking stuff that I think Mr. Thornton really understands as a banker. That just makes it difficult. We can't treat it as a grant. It's not a loan. It's something in between, and that's what causes the questions, from our lenders. So you ask me, can it go through? Can this thing still go through? Yeah, we're going to have to find some other dollars, I think, to supplement all of this. We may be burdened with some additional costs associated with our borrowing from the bank associated with this. But can we still proceed? Probably yes, but it would be very difficult, and it's just making it much more challenging.
So yes, but more challenging.
More challenging than it already has been.
My other question, I made, Mr. Chair. So thank you for submitting that environmental impact study from the geotechnical engineering report. So it's a local firm. So I looked through the report. It looks like the site has just clay, gravel, sand, things like that. No hazardous materials. But what about the basement itself? When that was mitigated, was there anything left on that property that would be a surprise to the developer? Anything that would further retard the project or bring in more costs and more delays?
That's how we certainly hope. When the buildings were demolished, they were demolished using HUD funds from the city. And when HUD dollars are used for these types of things, they check, from an environmental standpoint, if that everything is totally cleaned up. There was, as you recall, there was a big smokestack at one time on that property that was filled with asbestos and all sorts of issues. The $6 million that the county had invested through CityVest from the environmental side of it was actually probably well spent. Because the site has been cleaned up. There was an environmental phase 1 done back in 2012, and then we did another one. So there's been 2 studies that have been done on that site that say it's clean.
The whole site, not just the improved portion.
Yes.
The whole site.
That's my understanding.
All right.
Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Baruch.
One more thing, Mr. I'm sorry. I got a few. Item number 2, construction must start within 36 months or the contract and county grant project is rescinded. So a 2-part question. I thought the developer was talking about getting that ready for the summertime, some shovels in the ground.
It's our goal. As a matter of fact, we had our first meeting about breaking ground this summer to clean up the site, just take out debris and other things that are in the way of us putting our foundations in, and then taking several feet off the top of the entire site, and then replacing it with appropriate fill. so that when we do pave it and build on the foundations, we'll have a substantial base. But that has to be done, and we thought we need to start that as soon as possible.
And my last one then is, I think it's for you, Mr. Baruch, as well. Number 5, county funds will be released in 2 phases. The first will be the shell. So are we looking at the completion of the shell? The county funds will be released, or before we put the girders in?
Completion of the shell.
The completion.
And then the balance would be over at the completion of the project, and in terms of all the interior finishing and all the interior parts of the hotel.
So what's me is because again, I don't want another Clark building, I don't want another site that is half improved and we throw good money after that. But a lot of these parameters, this makes me feel good, Mr. Chair, because we're meeting guidelines and we're seeing progress rather than just an empty site. And the indemnification, I can appreciate that. I know it makes it more difficult, but I think that would put all the taxpayer at ease and a lot of people here. But Ms. Krogman, I don't know if I can ask our manager to do it, Chair. I forget the HUD requirements. This manager, was it 100 shovel-ready jobs back 15 years ago? Because that was the main sticking point, I think, of the HUD.
Right. I don't want to say yes, it was 100, but it is something like that. Which is why we're asking for the reports, the 3-year job reports from the developers.
Yeah, thanks. So I think the public and a lot of council members that weren't there don't remember that was the big issue. That the site was maintained. It was the developer of last resort. It was just very difficult to navigate through that. But that was the sticking point, that the jobs weren't created. That was the issue with the 6 million being called back. And
correct.
If we could demonstrate that we have those jobs ready, then we're off the hook, so to speak. And that's what the prospectus here clearly says, that's what the goal is. And I'm not in hotel restaurant management, but looks like it satisfies that to me, for my fellow colleagues here too. So that was the big sticking point. Aside from all the different discussions we had in private session with the solicitor regarding the past precedent for these things, I don't think that's necessarily the biggest issue. That it concerns me. My biggest issue is, are we really going to see it done? That's it. I don't want to throw good money after that. I want to see some progress here. And the indemnification, that's helpful, even though it might put some chocks in the wheels a little bit, but it seems like the project can still continue. I think that's what I just want assurances we're going to see something for the value, because we can program this money anywhere. This could help a bridge somewhere, a road somewhere, that's $3 million. And props to Mr. Rabel online. It was because of him that we have access. He lobbied for this for years. So Mark, I remember those days that it was hard to release these, but we fought hard to get these UDAG funds available. And I just want to make sure they're being used optimally. But I said a lot there. I'm sorry, but that's all right. That's kind of
all right. Thank you, Mr. Haas.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Baruch. We appreciate it. All right. There's a motion and a second on the amendment, which is to eliminate number 14 in section 2. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Ms. McDermott?
No.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Sabatino?
No.
Ms. Smith? No. Stevenson?
No.
Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
No.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Chowski? No. Mr. Scavenge?
Yes.
Lombardo?
No.
9 noes, 2 yeses, does not carry.
All right. There's a motion and a second on the original resolution.
Which is to.
The resolution is to authorize the county manager to negotiate an agreement with H&N Investments related to the project at the former Sterling site. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
One question for this chair.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at, because I know in discussions we've had with the developer, the LERTA, I think this is a KOZ property, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Keystone Opportunity Zone, the tax were forgiven for 10 years. Alerta is an incremental KOZ essentially, which I'm generally not for these. I could support something at a lower level, but they said that's not a deal breaker either with having that in there. Correct?
That's correct.
That's not a deal breaker. That's very helpful. Okay. All right. I think I have all my questions answered.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Perry?
I come in here tonight thinking one way, and I appreciate Mr. Thornton giving his thoughts and great speech made. It made a heck of a lot of sense. And I really appreciate Mr. Haas asking some very pointed questions that I had concerns. And I think I'm going to support this. Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
No.
Smith? I want to see progress and I want to make sure that we fulfill those type of requirements. So yes. Stevenson?
No.
Mr. Thornton?
Motion to authorize the county manager to negotiate, yes.
Mr. Lovich?
No.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasnowski?
No.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
I want to see the progress and have something there. It just seems too iffy for me to be able to say yes to it. So I'm sorry.
Mr. Lombardo?
I appreciate a lot of the comments that were made tonight, a lot of the questions that were asked. I know it's been a lot and we don't want to belabor this point. And I also want to see progress at that site. I remember when the hotel got torn down, I was very upset about it and I'd like to see something new there. So yes.
6 yes and 5 no. It passes.
All right, thank you. Number 2, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing Luzerne County Manager to negotiate an agreement with BIG Public Square LLC related to a project on Public Square in Wilkes-Barre. Is there a motion? All right, it dies for lack of a motion. Number 3, motion to adopt the resolution approving an agreement with Penn Avenue Realty Company LP for the leasing of employee parking spaces for fiscal year 2024 and 2025.
So moved.
All right, Mr. LaScavitch and second by Ms. Smith. Roll call.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Lovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes, and great job with management, negotiating that down a little bit. Yes.
That all that goes to Jen Pecora, Mary Roselle, and Michelle Sparich. They are the parking patrol. So
Good job, ladies.
Yes. Ms. Krasnowski? Yes. Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Yes. All right, number 4, appointments to authorities. We have the Convention Center Authority. I'll need a motion to open nominations.
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
All right, motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are now open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Robert Mahalik.
Second.
Nomination for Rob Mahalik by Ms. McDermott, second by Mr. Sabatino. Any other
I'd like
nominations?
to nominate Ms. Michelle Riley.
Nomination
Second.
by Mr. Wilovich, second by Mr. Thornton. Any other nominations?
This is the convention center, right?
Yes. Any other nominations? Motion.
Closed nominations.
Second.
All right. McDermott, Thornton. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. All right, there are 2 nominees. We will have we'll have a roll call, and each council person can go for their prospective candidate, since there are only 2 and there's 1 spot. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Ms. Smith? Mahalik? Stevenson?
Mahalik.
Mr. Thornton?
Ms. Michelle Riley?
Mr. Wilovich?
Ms. Riley.
Mr. Haas?
Ms. Riley.
Ms. Krasnowski?
Mahalik.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Miss Riley.
Ms. McDermott?
Mr. Mahalik.
Mr. Perry?
Mr. Mahalik.
Mr. Sabatino?
Mahalik.
And Mr. Lombardo?
Ms. Riley.
5 for Ms. Riley and 6 for Mr. Mahalik. Mr. Mahalik, you can be.
Okay.
6 votes.
All right, we'll need the resolution, correct? All right, we'll need a motion for the resolution for Mr. Mahalik.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Sabatino, second by Ms. McDermott. Roll call.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasnowski?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Lombardo, Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Smith. Yes. And Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, appointments to boards and commissions. First, we have Board of Elections and Registration. First, we will do the Republican term. And I believe there are 2 candidates. Is there a motion to open nominations for the Republican term?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion or nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Morelli.
I'll second.
Motion and a second for Mr. Morelli. Any other nominations?
Roxanne Perry.
All right, motion for Roxanne Arreguin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Stevenson.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations for the Republican are closed. There are 2 nominees for the 1 Republican slot, Mr. Morelli and Ms. Arreguin. We're gonna have Ms. Lawrence do roll call and you'll go around with your preference.
Mr. Thornton,
Mr. Morelli.
Mr. Wilovich,
Mr. Morelli.
Mr. Haas,
Mr. Morelli.
Ms. Krishnowski,
Ms. Arreguin.
Mr. Liscavige,
Arreguin.
Ms. McDermott, Morelli, Mr. Perry,
Morelli.
Mr. Sabatino,
Morelli.
Smith, Stevenson, Mr. Lombardo,
Morelli.
4 for Ms. Arreguin, and 7 for Mr. Morelli, he will be the candidate.
All right, we'll now have a motion for the resolution for Mr. Morelli.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Wilovich,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski.
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll now open nominations for the Democrat.
Motion open. Second.
All right, Ms. Smith and Mr. Sabatino, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations for the Democrat are open.
Alford.
Nomination for Al Floor, Ms. Smith.
Second.
Second by Ms. Krishnowski. Any other nominations?
Nominate Albert Schlosser.
Nomination for Al Schlosser. Is there a second? Second by Ms. McDermott. Any other nominations?
Motion to close.
Motion to
Second.
close. Second by Ms. Krishnowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations for the Democrat are closed. We'll have roll call with your preference of Mr. Schlosser or Mr. Flora.
Me, Mr. Haas,
Mr. Schlosser.
Ms. Krishnowski,
Flora.
Mr. Liscavige,
Schlosser.
Ms. McDermott. Schlosser. Mr. Perry,
Mr. Schlosser.
Mr. Sabatino,
Flora.
Ms. Smith. Flora. Ms. Stevenson.
Flora.
Mr. Thornton,
Mr. Schlosser.
Mr. Wilovich,
Mr. Schlosser.
Mr. Lombardo.
Schlosser.
7 for Schlosser, 4 for Flora.
All right, thank you. We'll now have a motion for the resolution for Mr. Schlosser.
So
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Ms. Krishnowski.
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Stevenson. Yes. Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes. All right, thank you. Next up, we have MHDS. We have 2 terms ending 12/31/2026. And I believe there are 2 candidates. You can nominate both when we open the nominations, which I will entertain a motion to do now.
So
All right.
motion to open.
Second.
All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I nominate Mr. Craig Mark and Tom O'Neill.
Okay,
Motion to close.
Motion to second.
I'll second.
okay,
Second first.
okay, all right, Ms. McDermott, Mr. Haas. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed.
Oh, no, that was for,
Oh, for,
that was, she nominated both. Mr. Haas seconded. Now we need a motion to close.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you made the motion.
no, there was a,
Otherwise,
I did, yeah, I did.
yeah.
Okay.
I nominated the 2. Who seconded my nomination?
Nobody did.
Oh,
Nobody's
Mr. Haas,
right.
I'm
I
sorry.
tried to, but you guys already voted to close.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I have
Sorry.
a motion to open by Ms. McDermott, Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
And then Mr. Thornton nominated Poe, second by Mr. Haas. Poe nominated to close. Motion.
Ms.
And
McDermott.
Second.
And second, I think, Mr. Haas as well, or Mr.
I'll
Willovich.
take.
Mr. Willovich, I'm sorry. All right, okay, now we will have, can we do both resolutions? All right, we'll do one resolution for Mr. O'Neill. All right, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second, Mr. Sabatino, roll call?
Mr. Wisnowski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Stevenson. Yes. Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll do a motion for the resolution for Mr. Mark.
Make a motion.
Second.
Krishnowski, Willovich, roll call?
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Stevenson. Yes. Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krasinski.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes. All right, thank you. Next up, we'll have the Tax Assessment Board. We have one term ending in 12/31/2027. Motion to open.
Motion open.
All right, Sabatino, second by Ms. Stevenson. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought, all right, Ms. Krishnowski, sorry, I thought I heard something.
Ventriloquist.
I
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Peter Bard.
Second.
All right, nomination for Peter Bard. There's a second.
Motion to close.
Wait, do we
There's only,
tax assessment?
that's it. That's what we're doing now.
Oh, okay.
All right, there's a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second, Mr. Sabatino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. It's one nominee and one opening, so we'll just do the resolution for Mr. Bard.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Oh,
Excuse me,
there's, I need a
first.
motion in a second.
Motion.
All right, all right, Sabatino and
Ms. Stevenson.
Ms. Stevenson.
Now we'll do roll. call.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Stevenson. Yes. Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krasinski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the drug and alcohol, and this is for a law enforcement term that is ending in 2026.
Motion open.
Second.
Mr. Willovich, Ms. McDermott, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. McGuire. Second.
All right, nomination and a second.
Motion to close.
Motion closed and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. Entertain a motion for the resolution.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Krishnowski and Stevenson. Roll call?
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Stevenson. Yes. Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Mr. Krasinski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes. All right, next we have Luzerne County Council committee appointments that are made by resolution. And the first one is resolution appointing a council member to the retirement board. Is there a motion for a open nominations?
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
All right, second by Ms. Stevenson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open. I'll nominate Brian Thornton.
Second.
Any other nominations? Is there a motion to close?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. Do the resolution for Mr. Thornton. Is there a motion?
Motion moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Willovich and Ms. McDermott. Roll call.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith. Yes. Ms. Stevenson. Yes. Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krasinski.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, next we'll have a motion to open nominations for the Blighted Property Review Committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I'd like to move Mr. Greg Lovich for the planted property.
Second. I'd like to nominate Ms. Brittany Stevenson. Second.
You can always not accept them.
I'll decline that.
Okay, all right.
So wait.
He declined the nomination.
So then we have Ms. Stevenson.
Just Ms. Stevenson.
And that was by
Motion.
Who nominated Ms. Stevenson?
I nominated.
You, and then Wolfpack seconded. I apologize. All right. Nomination, motion to close.
Second to close.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. All right, we'll have the resolution for Ms. Stevenson. Motion by Ms. Smith.
second.
Second by Ms. Krishnowski. Roll call.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes. Next, we'll open nominations for the County Cares Commission.
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I nominate Joanna Brinson.
I second.
All right. Motion and a second. Any other nominations?
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. We'll have the resolution for Joanna Byrne-Smith. Sorry. Motion?
Second.
Motion. Second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Smith? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Perry, did I miss you? Yes. And Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we'll have a motion to open nominations for the Bi-County Airport Board. Please note, this is not the council chair's appointee. I've designated my appointee as Mr. Wolowich. This is for a separate individual. Currently, it's Ms. McDermott. So is there a motion to open nominations?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Ms. McDermott.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Motion to close. Who motioned to close originally?
I motion to close.
All right.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. We will have the resolution for Ms. McDermott. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Wolfpack, Krishnowski. Roll call.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith? Yes. Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, next up, we just have the announcement of the committee appointments that are made by the chair. I can read through all of them if you'd like. First, we have Budget, Finance, and Audit. I have Chair Mr. Thornton, Vice Chair Mr. Perry. Then we also have Mr. Wolowich and Mr. Sabatino. On that committee, Act 13, we have Chair Mr. Thornton, Vice Chair Mr. LaScavitch, also Ms. McDermott and Ms. Krishnowski. Then we have the ABC committee. The chair is Mr. Thornton by way of being Vice Chair of Council. I assign myself as Vice Chair, then Mr. Perry and Ms. Stevenson. Code Review Committee, I have Mr. Haas as Chair, Mr. Wolowich as Vice Chair, Ms. Krishnowski and myself. Legislative Committee, I have Mr. Wolowich as Chair, Ms. Smith as Vice Chair, Mr. Sabatino, then myself. Real Estate Committee is Ms. McDermott as Chair, Mr. Sabatino as Vice Chair, Mr. LaScavitch and Ms. Stevenson. Strategic Initiatives Committee is Mr. Haas as Chair, Ms. Smith as Vice Chair, Mr. LaScavitch and Ms. Stevenson. Review Committee is Ms. Krishnowski as Chair, Mr. Wolowich as Vice Chair, then Ms. Smith. Infrastructure Committee is Mr. Sabatino as Chair, Mr. Haas as Vice Chair, Ms. Krishnowski and Ms. McDermott, and we got rid of Opioid Committee to vote as a resolution next week. If there's nothing further, we'll have public comment. Non-agenda items, I do have a couple of slips up here. Mr. Bonsall.
Good evening. My name is Mark Bonsall. I'm the fire chief for the city of Yanko. Just wanted to discuss, offer my opinions on the West Yanko Bridge. As we know, response times are paramount in emergency situations. Right now, the city of Yanko provides primary fire rescue coverage to Plymouth Township, West Yanko section, which covers from the Garden Drive-In all the way up to the top of the former Plymouth Township Rec Park and approximately 3 miles out, Route 29. As it stands right now, we can't afford to lose to have any more weight reductions on this bridge. As Mr. Chair can attest, new apparatus that are being built right now are heavier than what they have been. City of Pittston has taken delivery of 2 new apparatus. City of Nanticoke has a new engine, a new tower ladder on board. Weight is increased. So my recommendation is that hopefully the county council could look to have a full bridge replacement for this. It's a matter of public safety for citizens of the city of Nanticoke and residents of West Nanticoke section of Plymouth Township. Also, too, a lot of new infrastructure coming into the city. We have new warehouses popping up, and I think that if there's a full replacement of the bridge, we have a lot of land that's in the city of Nanticoke, Newport Township. Even with a combined effort with the city of Nanticoke and Newport Township fire departments, the former state prison retreat is in Newport Township. So that's part of our primary response area as well on Newport Township. So any deviation from that, if the weight is reduced anymore, we're going to have to travel another 2 miles up the road, pick up the Cross Valley Bridge, come back down. And that's just going to waste a lot of time. So I'm just hoping that the county council will look at the full replacement of the West Nanticoke Bridge.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. All right, Joe Hillen.
My name is Joe Hillen. I'm the Township Manager of Newport Township. And I'd like to thank Mr. Thornton for those inspiring words about the coal miners' mentality and moving forward. And the reason I'm here is on behalf of the Township Commissioners is the West Nanticoke Bridge. We're blessed in Newport Township with a lot of land, and this is the last chance to get to that land, full bridge replacement. When they built the South Valley Parkway, that was supposed to extend into Newport Township. That was cut short. So now this is our last chance to develop all this land for economic development, and that'll benefit the county and actually with the tax base. So we're on behalf of the commissioners, we urge you to pick the full replacement option for the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Gail Conrad.
I guess I could be seen. I'm not sure if I could see over. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak a minute here tonight. I would just like to follow up on the gentleman here regarding the Nanticoke West Nanticoke Bridge. It is so essential for, as Chief Bonkel had said, the lower part of West Nanticoke and the middle part of Plymouth Township. And I know it because I was born there, raised there, lived there my whole life. And I'm also currently a solutions consultant for the Board of Supervisors in Plymouth Township. Additionally, besides what the 2 gentlemen had stated, there's also grave concerns about the school buses. Information was provided to us a good number of years ago from White Transit Bus Company, Vice President Rick Andrico. He stated just in that little section going from West Nanticoke to Nanticoke and back, there's a total of 30 times per day the buses go back and forth. When you go through it in a month, it's 1,000 extra miles for those buses. Again, this came directly from him. Naturally, safety, I'm sure on all the minds of all these folks, myself, and I'm sure all of you also. Safety is first, and we all know finances are right there behind it. But when you buckle them together, I'm just hoping that all of you folks make the best decision possible on behalf of everything said by these gentlemen and myself. It's my understanding that a team of county professionals, including the county engineers, has deemed this bridge Luzerne County's highest priority public infrastructure project. I really don't know what more can be said. If that is the case, we're hoping you all will do the right thing and replace over repair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Anybody else in the audience for public comment? On the Zoom, we have Mr. Raybo. Go ahead, Mr. Raybo, if you want to. There you go.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Raybo from Hazleton speaking. First of all, I would like to thank members of council for their vote on the Hotel Sterling site. Both the council members who voted for it and people who voted against it, especially the people who voted against it, because it takes a lot of political courage, especially after the eloquent words of the vice chair and what has been affixed to our area in the past. But he also omitted 2 terms that's also affixed to our area. And those 2 terms are tribalism and the mob mentality, not the coal baron mentality as Mr. Hawes, because he's a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate his sentiment. But I will use the word that everyone uses outside of our area to correlate with our area, the mob mentality, because that's what it is. And we need to stop bowing down and capitulating to that mob mentality once and for all, because the new generation does not want any affiliation or association with that mob mentality, whether they're coming from outside of the area or they've grown up from inside the area. So that being said, I will go on to the Nanticoke Bridge. I would like, Mr. Chairman, that you could ask the township supervisors and the borough councils that are on the list of the projects to come forward as well, because what about their projects on the list? Don't they have a right to say anything about their projects being done according to the LSA infrastructure list? I think they have a right to say something too. So, Mr. Chairman, members of council, you got to treat the municipalities like your own kids and your grandkids. You got to treat them the same way, evenly, and also with equal consideration. I just want you to keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raybo. We have one more on the Zoom. We have Alyssa Fasaro. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Good evening. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to thank you very much for your attention to the Board of Elections and for
Ms. Fasaro, you're cutting out.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. It was just a thank you for the appointments. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fasaro.
Thank you.
Mr. Grantee.
I'm old enough to remember the Sheridan Cross Gates. I believe that was built after the flood and didn't last more than 20 years in business. And I'm just wondering why, or what's changed since then that will accommodate building a new hotel structure.
I mean, if you're looking for an answer, Mr. Grantee, I mean, you have to just,
Well,
you look no
I'm
further
just
than
saying,
all the development outside of the city of Wilkes-Barre, the development of the colleges.
Yeah, they were here back
itself.
then.
I mean, it's all become much more well-developed than it is.
If I could add,
and
if I could add also, we have the new 1,500 venue, 1,500 person venue, right there, right behind the proposed Hyatt project. There's gonna be major national acts in that Iron Temple Theater. They're putting 11 million in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be 1,500 people going to those venues that are gonna need hotel stays. They're gonna need parking spots.
Is that enough room to have a reasonably accommodating hotel? It just seems like a small piece of property there compared to a lot of the places
I'm
I
saying
stayed
the
in.
Iron Temple is gonna need places for people to stay. You ask what changed. since the Sheraton, the Iron Temple they're putting 11 million in it now. They're gonna be bringing
Right,
over
I-
1,000 people.
I understand
there
that,
Who
but-
walk out and they have to stay at a hotel.
Is it a big enough property to do that though?
Which property are you talking about? The Iron Temple?
No, the one that you're gonna put the hotel on.
Well,
That's right on the corner there.
that has been discussed at great detail in the last probably 2 or 3 meetings that we've
Yeah.
had here, where they've talked about metrics for who stays after they come to concerts and whatnot. They use the Kirby Center for reference. So you can go back and reference that in our previous meetings, and it's also in our agenda packet where there's a lot of documentation to speak to what the questions you're asking. So if you want to take a look at that, please feel free. And then, if you have any more questions, you can feel free to come back to us in another meeting or email us or anything you like.
They're posted online, right?
And it's all of this is posted online.
Mr. Grantee, you could have mine.
Okay,
If you want
thanks.
a copy, it does have the plans and everything.
And one other thing, my grandparents were coal miners. They came from the coma, and I'd be proud to be just as self-sufficient as they were. They never asked for a dime, never took a dime from anybody, and raised big families.
Right. Absolutely. I agree 1,000%.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Please state your name and municipality.
Desiree from Swearsville.
What's your last name, ma'am?
Edwards.
Okay.
So I don't know if I got this right. That's why I'm coming up here and asking this question. So is it a choice between the bridge or the hotel?
No, those are completely different pots of money.
Okay, that's all
Yeah.
I wanted to know.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
Motion, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, meeting's adjourned. We'll restart at 7:35. Hey, Jeff. Oh, that's okay. Oh.
I have that your
I'll take it actually. Stretching my legs a little.
Me too.
Recording in progress.
Yes, I hear.
Here.
Here.
Oh, mic's on, please.
Here. Perry.
Yeah.
Sabatino.
Here.
Smith. Here. Stevenson. Here. Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Present. Here.
All present.
All right, any additions or deletions from the work session agenda? Or motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is adopted. Number one, we have budget reports for December 2023. Ms. Roselle.
Thank you. In your packet, you are given the three reports that we've been using for the last several meetings, but I just want to tell the council members too, if there is a report that you feel would be beneficial to you, I can prepare, any kind of report that you're looking for, you think is helpful. In addition to that, if you ever have any questions about the report, please feel free to call, stop by, whatever. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If you feel that it's something you want to discuss in a public meeting, let us have this meeting in advance. I'll be happy to have your just to highlight a couple things, the budget performance report. If you go to the last page of that report, you'll see that at the end of December, we are at 92% of our revenue collection budget. There are still some entries that we would make, that we will need to make to close out the year end. And you'll see right now we're at $157 million at the end of December. We just did the TRAN on January 2nd, so obviously that number went up by another $11.5 million for TRAN. So you'll see that in January. The third report is
Ms. Roselle, I'm sorry. You said the train was for 11.5 million?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been away for a couple years. It used to be like 16, 17 million. So
right.
Hats off to you all. Fantastic.
Great. Yeah, it was, and hopefully we can stay there or continue to decrease it, as we get through next year.
Thank you.
And then the third report is just an accounts payable report, but just actual, so you can really see kind of, where we're spending, where the money's going from the accounts payable. And again, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them now, or if you want to review them and then send me any questions you have, I'll be happy to respond.
Any questions for Ms. Roselle?
I think I just have one. So, regarding the LSA funding, can we get optimal value for those funds in the bank? Make sure. I know you shopped around for other accounts.
Well, actually, the redevelopment. So we shop around for interest rates on all of the accounts. So like the second report that I showed you, the treasurer's report, we always want to make sure that we're putting the money in, obviously, the bank account where we can get most accounts. And I have to say, lately, we have a lot of banks like who are contacting us saying that they'll review our accounts. Yes. And without even moving a 5-minute meeting, and they're really good for so that's easy. But the LSA is actually being held by the redevelopment authority. And what they're doing with that money is they're reinvesting it because we really don't have a lot of expenditures yet. I mean, there's a small bill that was paid to manage, like in the beginning when they were like doing the analysis of the bridge, and then there were obviously the closing costs. But I mean, they're sitting on almost $6 million. So they're putting those in short-term treasuries because they don't know when we're going to use the money. So the interest rate that they're earning on them obviously fluctuates based on the term that they're choosing on the treasury bills. But it's about 5% if you look at it on average. So yeah. I
think that's standard for the market right now, about 5.5 or so. Okay.
And if you look at what they've earned, I mean, I gave you the information I gave you the other day was November. We actually got the December interest just this morning, so I added that, and it's like $100,000 now. And that's money that we can use, and everyone agrees, it's money that, you know, it's money that we can use however the county sees fit to use it.
Thank you. What are you doing?
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you.
Mary.
All right, next week.
Video Innovations provides Northeast Pennsylvania with high-quality, multi-camera live stream productions for conferences, government organizations, special events, graduation ceremonies, concerts, and church services. Call Video Innovations at 570-719-9986 to book your event now.
The plan would be published as a 2026-2050 long-range plan. The purpose of this plan is that any and all road or bridge projects in Lackawanna and Luzerne counties, in order for them to receive state or federal funding, they need to be listed in this 25-year long-range plan. So this reminds me that back in 2021, which is like yesterday, but it seems like an eternity ago to me, we had lists of projects that had been decades in the waiting that we had to compile for that report in 2021. And we had some other wish list items that were in our unfunded but desirable category. Projects that were way out in the out years that had never mustered support to that date. Two of those projects were the Pittston area bridges and the West Hanover Bridge. In order for those items to have been recognized as higher priorities subsequently by leadership, they had to at least have been on that plan and identified to be recipients of state and federal infusions of money. So we keep track through the decades of what projects bubble to the top, but we're always keeping an eye towards what other ideas for projects are important that we might need to add that weren't conceived of before. So we're asking for your support for this project. The total budget would not exceed $170,000. 130,000 of that, or excuse me, 140,000 of that would go to an outside consultant to help us develop the study. 30,000 would go to our in-house mapping department for their involvement in generating the mapping data and keeping that mapping data in-house. An important selling point of this is that 90% of these costs are fully reimbursable from PennDOT and federal agencies. So the entire project would cost $170,000 in monies that Luzerne County would front. Lackawanna would pay us half of that back, 85 grand. Of the 85 grand that we front that we don't get immediately back, we would invoice PennDOT, Federal Highway, and Federal Transit. They would pay the county back 90% of what we fronted. Lackawanna would then go out to those same state and federal partners and get 90% of their expenses paid back. So for a $170,000 project that you're fronting the funds for, roughly 8,000 would be the 10% match that we would front as county taxpayer dollars to support the project that we would not see paid back to the county. If we put this 25-year plan in place, this will ensure that state and federal funding will be put towards those roadway and bridge repair priorities over that 25-year period, again, running from 2026 to 2050. And in 2023 alone, in last year alone, over $149 million in state and federal funds were put into road and bridge repair projects in Lackawanna and Luzerne counties. And so we're asking you to support this project. 90% of it will be paid back, and it will ensure that we remain eligible for literally hundreds of millions of dollars in state and federal road and bridge repair monies for that 25-year period in the future. If you guys have any questions, I'm here to help answer them now or in the coming weeks. And otherwise, everything is prepared for you here in your packet as a draft.
Mr. Jones, I just have one question. The previous number that you said, how much money was allocated to Luzerne County projects for roads? Was it last year you said? You said, was it 125 million?
In last year alone, 149 million went to road and bridge projects of state and federal money into Luzerne and Lackawanna counties.
Okay.
And it's usually programmed on a roughly equal basis. We in PennDOT and Lackawanna keep an eye towards that in a sense of egalitarianism and equality. So $75 million.
How big of a billboard can we get with that number on it?
I'm sorry?
How big of a billboard can we get with that number on it to let everybody know that that's how much money is going towards road projects here in Northeast Pennsylvania?
And John Lombardo on it.
No, not me, not me, not me.
We'll find it. We'll find it. We'll find the biggest billboard in Luzerne County.
I mean, honestly, that's a great idea. I think we should do that.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Jones, for coming out. I always appreciate you. So with this, we're just talking to Mr. Prince Smith here. I mean, we have a bigger population like Lackawanna. Maybe we should get a little bigger line share, not to demean the partnership. But I just want to know, I remember doing this a couple of years ago. I think 2021 was the last time. Are there any strings attached to this with the federal and state entities? Are they trying to, like, obviously it's a hoop to jump through to release those funds, but I know they were pushing bike lanes a while. Not that I'm necessarily for or against that, but I'm just saying, is there anything that we would be compelled to do with this 25-year plan?
No, the selection of the priority projects is run through what we call the MPO, which is this sort of bi-county group of stakeholders. And there's a voting committee. Ramilda Procomo sits on that committee as the Luzerne County voting member. And there's roughly 11 voting members. The other representatives include the city of Wilkes-Barre, the city of Hazleton, the mayors, and they send their engineers typically to vote on their behalf and to follow these projects. And PennDOT has a large presence on that panel. They have representatives from the Dunmore office, the satellite office in Dunmore, as well as their central office in Harrisburg. So, and then Scranton is involved, and Lackawanna County has representation as well. So those are the individuals that vote to program the money, utilizing the expertise of PennDOT's engineers. So this is kind of how this has been the sort of like modus operandi for decades, and we have good representation on those panels. And again, these are critical projects because maybe an idea comes of something that we hadn't realized is a need, like the West Nanticoke Bridge. You know, that was brought to us by State Senator Udicek at the time. Like, hey, this is a need, and it's not even on your 25-year plan. So we put it at the back end and said it's on our wish list. And then we had a few elections, and you know, and Mr. Udicek went to Harrisburg to try to find casino money. And so things can change over the years as to what is determined a priority. And the local governments have a huge role to play in that, in advocating with PennDOT leadership. And we've seen that through our government system here. So the other item, of course, being the Pittston Area Bridge Fund. And that's going to be a county-state collaboration and PennDOT's come in and said that they're looking to pay 95% of those expenses. So that went from wish list back at the back end of the wish list to, you know, front and center. So this council had a large role to play in that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Smith, do you have a question?
No, it was answered.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? All right, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
And next up, we have an update on the Nanticoke Bridge. I don't know who wants to get up and speak first. Go ahead. Mr. Yanuzzi.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dominic Yanuzzi. I'm with Benish. There's two other engineers from Benish here present, John Connect and Ed Bozak, and we're going to give a presentation on the West Nanticoke Bridge. I believe that there's going to be a presentation put up on the screen that you could follow along. I also believe you have the there it is. Does this move? Oh, there it is. Okay. The West Nanticoke Bridge, otherwise known as Luzerne County Bridge number 2. Benish was contracted by Luzerne County to do preliminary engineering on the bridge. And at this time, we're going to present the alternatives analysis that was completed, along with costs and all the items that were considered in the analysis. So with that, I would like to turn the presentation over to John Connect.
So I'd like to start by just giving a little bit of a background and what the existing condition is out there right now. The first slide here is a location map showing some of the surrounding area. The area highlighted in red is actually the bridge itself. A lot of people don't realize how long it is. It carries Broad Street over the Susquehanna River and also a large area of floodplain leading up to the Susquehanna River. It connects Nanticoke to West Nanticoke, and on the north side, it has Route 11 at a T intersection. So the bridge was originally built in 1914, which makes it 110 years old this year. And just for reference, bridges built currently have a design life of 100 years. So this bridge is past its prime. In 1987, it was rehabilitated. As I mentioned, it is an exceptionally long bridge. It's over 1,900 feet long with 24 spans. Now, 3 of those spans are the long span trusses that everybody's familiar with, and they extend over the Susquehanna River. 21 of those spans are approach spans that go over the floodplain. They're shorter spans, they're precast concrete. The trusses have been deteriorating more and more rapidly, and it's led to continual weight posting reductions. And currently it's posted at 15 tons. And this, as was mentioned previously in public comment, impacts emergency response times. Currently, it needs to be inspected every 6 months, and it has priority 1 repairs identified on the bridge itself. Now, priority 1 repairs are a repair identified by PennDOT, which needs to be acted on within 6 months. The truss itself, the truss spans are considered fracture critical, which means that a failure of one of the main connections would lead to a catastrophic bridge failure. And actually, PennDOT won't even allow us to design bridges like this anymore. And then finally, it does carry an ADT, average daily traffic of 6,700 vehicles per day across it. So the concern would be if one of these future inspections does lead to a closure, those vehicles now have to find a new way across the river. In the lower, we have two photos here for reference. The lower right photo shows a crack in the bearing. That's priority one repair. But actually, more of our concerns are the upper right photo. And this is a pin connection, which is severely rusted. Now, that rust has a twofold problem associated with it. Obviously, it's deteriorating the steel members, but it's also making it very, very difficult for inspectors to see what's going on within that connection itself. So there are some unknowns associated with those types of connections. Aside from the structural issues, there are some other issues with the bridge. As you can see in the lower left photo there, the current roadway width is 21 feet. By design, current design standards, that should now be 32 feet, which is a 50% increase. The bridge is very narrow. It's a little awkward when you see a box truck coming at you and you're coming the opposite direction. So there have been crashes on the bridge and then also on both of the approaches. Now, in the upper right photo, we did run an analysis of a larger vehicle making a right-hand turn onto Route 11 there. And you can see it does need to extend into the oncoming lane of Route 11, which is not desirable. It's a safety risk potentially. So with this project, we do have an opportunity to improve on both of those issues. And also in the lower right photo, there's an area hatched in red there. This project could give us an opportunity to put in a turning lane there, which would have a couple of benefits. We'd be able to improve the swinging radius of larger vehicles. And there is potential industrial development in the area. And if that does progress, traffic is going to be increased. And this would allow us to avoid future traffic jams by putting in that turning lane at the Route 11 intersection. So Bennett's working with the county. We've developed 3 different alternatives to investigate within our alternatives analysis report. Number 1 is the rehabilitation analysis. In this alternative, we'd be rehabilitating the trusses. On the 21 approach that I mentioned, we'd be replacing the beams and the deck. And then also the abutments and piers would also be rehabilitated. Now, during this alternative, we would need to detour traffic around the bridge. Alternative 2, we're calling partial replacement. Now, in this alternative, we would be taking out the trusses and replacing those 3 spans with 4 new spans of a steel bridge. And again, we'd be replacing the beams and deck on the 21 approach spans and rehabilitating the piers and abutments. So that's alternative 2. Alternative 3 is the relocation alternative. So here this is the easiest to follow. It's a completely new bridge built to the west of the existing bridge. So in alternative 3, you would be able to maintain the existing bridge while you build the new bridge. Alternative 2, you would also need to do the detour during construction. So here's an aerial view showing a couple of different alignments. The green represents alternative 1 and alternative 2, where we're keeping it on alignment. We investigated the red and the blue for the replacement alternative. The red was initially looked at to limit the impacts to the surrounding area, so we kept it as tight as we could to the existing bridge. However, as we went in farther into the investigation, blue was preferred for a couple of reasons. The bend in the bridge was eliminated, which is where a few accidents occurred. And then also on the south approach, which would be on the right side of the screen, we were able to ease that curve a little bit more. And there were also accidents reported down there. So we
pretty sharp on that coming off that bridge.
Yeah.
There's actually a bunch of fatalities on that part of the section.
We were trying to identify, and we think it might be possibly ice at that sharp turn there. So the next 3 slides actually will hopefully give you a good visualization of what these alternatives are. Ed's going to help out with alternative 1 here.
So alternative 1 is rehabilitation. So looking at the diagram there, we have on the upper left, we have Route 11. So that's the beginning of the bridge on the Route 11 side. And if we follow it across to the lines, we end up on the far bottom right, or on the Nanticoke side. So what we'll do on this rehab option is we're not going to change the width of the bridge. We're not going to address the turning. But what we are going to do is we're going to look at the steel structure on those three spans. We're going to rehabilitate it. And we replace all the members that are deteriorated, attempt to fix those pin connections. Now, those pin connections are an issue. There's a pretty good chance we're going to replace them with some other type of connection just because of the inspection issues, etc. The issue with this rehabilitation option is the unknowns. During design, you do your best to try to determine what's wrong, you do thorough inspections, but ultimately these during construction tend to lead to a lot more unknowns. You have to throw a little more contingency in your estimates and bidding documents to account for that. So that's just one of the risks on that. The remaining spans that are the pre-stressed concrete, we would just replace the deck and the beams, and then we would just rehabilitate the superstructure.
All right, so alternative 2 is the partial replacement. Here you can see, I'm going to flip back and forth. The trusses are now gone. And in the place of the 3 trusses, we now have 4 spans of steel beam bridge. And what that requires is 4 piers in the river now. Now you're going from 3 piers to 4 piers, which means we're blocking more of the river. And the effect of that would be that flooding would be worse in the area. So to counteract that, on the middle row here, you can see there's a change, and the change is that we took out 2 piers. Now, 2 of the smaller piers equate to approximately 1 of the larger piers in terms of obstruction for the flow of the river. So as a result, we actually improved the flooding slightly in this area with alternative 2. Alternative 2 does give us the opportunity to widen the bridge and put in the turn lane that was previously discussed. Finally, alternative 3 is the relocation. This would be built to the west of the existing bridge. You can see the piers, all new piers. They're spaced out more evenly to be more efficient. And this would also be pre-stressed concrete beams just because it would be more economical at those span lengths. Again, we'd be able to widen the bridge and provide a turning lane onto Route 11. So as we dug into this alternatives analysis, we identified many considerations that are going to be critical to be considered when evaluating each of the alternatives against each other. And they're listed here. And some of the most critical ones we bolded here as we got into the report. We found that structural design is very critical. There's a historical and public use component that turned out to be pretty critical. Traffic and safety is always of utmost importance. And everybody knows that cost and schedule are very important too. And as we progressed through and looked at each of those, with respect to each alternative, we found that alternative 2, which is the replacement of the trusses with steel beam bridge on alignment. We found that to be our recommended alternative. And for a few reasons that we have listed here, it's the quickest to return the bridge to service. When we looked at the construction schedule, we had the opportunity to widen the structure and provide the turning lane, which would address future development in the area and help with traffic in the future. Also, long-term maintenance when compared to the trusses. Having the trusses on the county's books is a liability of future maintenance and a lot more inspections. And it avoids a lot of the unknowns that Ed spoke about. Yes?
Does that curve in the bridge get fixed at all with this?
The curve in the bridge would remain with alternative 2.
So it would be wider? So
but it'd be wider,
It'd be
yes.
wider, and you'll have the proper sight distance, et cetera. So from a design criteria standpoint, it'll meet current design criteria. I think the problem now is it's just so narrow and you get that turn. That's the issue. So widen that out with
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Continue, sorry.
And then the final table that everybody's interested in is the cost and the construction duration. Alternative 2 was $8 million cheaper than either of the other alternatives and about a half a year faster to construct. Now those dollar amounts are in 2024 costs, where future inflation would impact that. So if we did compile a 500-page report, but to cut everything pretty short, here's the summation. We took each alternative and we assigned it a low, moderate, or severe ranking with respect to each of those components that we discussed previously. And to touch on some of the more critical ones that we have highlighted here, structural analysis, the structure itself in alternative 1, that's where the truss remains, is not ideal, and it's a liability. Historical, alternative 2, this is alternative 2's only severe ranking. Alternative 3 also has a severe ranking. It's because we're removing the trusses which have been identified as historically significant. Now, that's not a showstopper. Typically, something that we do to accommodate that historical loss would be something like a historical marker, or maybe a report just documenting the historical significance of the bridge, something like that. Traffic and safety, alternative 1 has the most severe because we're not alleviating any of those concerns that we had with the crashes on the bridge. Alternative 2 receives moderate because we are keeping the curve, but it's not as much of a concern. And then cost and construction schedule, both low for alternative 2 because it's the cheapest and the fastest. So when we compiled everything, we gave the overall rating at the very bottom, and alternative 1 received moderate, alternative 2 was low, and alternative 3 was severe. And that's basically what we based our recommendation off of. So I'm hoping that we did fly this, the trusses with our drone, and we have a little video here that we were hoping to play. Let's see, there it is. And we'll play this while we have this opportunity to answer any of your questions that you might have.
All right, you guys mind if I go first? So with alternative 2, you will be widening the bridge to that 32-foot length or width, correct? Correct. And then how will the replacement and rehabilitation of the piers work with that widened width?
That's a very good question. We would have a detail where we would be, so the pier being a concrete,
it's a concrete wall.
Concrete wall. Sometimes you see like the hammerhead piers where they extend and they widen the top of the pier. We would widen the top of the pier to accommodate extra beam lines, and it would allow us to widen the deck.
And as part of our preliminary design, we already looked into, we're actually, with the bridge type we're proposing, we're reducing the loading on those piers. So from a loading perspective, they're good. And the overall condition, when you look at the inspection report, is good. We can rehabilitate those. There's mass concrete there, so typically.
And the piers themselves are in decent shape, most of them.
No signs of settlement. The piers, the piles supported. Based on the inspection reports, there's no indications of any issues.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lescavich.
So, as the once famous Carl Venus said, I'm cheap. So I'm just going to go right to the point. On December 8th, Hazleton, West Hazleton came back for $675,000 on the bridge you guys did. Okay. That was a 34% increase on that bridge. As a county person sitting here on these dollar amounts, I would want this nailed down on your recommendation and not to exceed. Because what I didn't like in your talk was where you said unforeseen things. I don't want to see you guys come back and say, hey, you know what? There's 20 items we missed. We're paying you this money for your professional opinion, and you should know this inside and out. And that's what worries me. Myself and Mr. Thornton were involved in a $9 million project in West Pittston for sewers. We had to do some change orders because there might have been subsidence, things that you can't foresee. But simple things like, I forgot laterals or things of that nature. No, I'm sorry. There's 15 houses on that street. You need 15 laterals. It's real simple. So they're the kind of things that become annoying. And all I'll ask is whoever builds this bridge, we are not going to look at change orders lightly. They got to be legit. There's got to be a percentage cap, because if I did the math on this bridge that you're proposing for 30 to 39 million, and you were off by 34%, that puts that bridge at 52 million. Fair enough? So those mistakes cannot be made. And I know that smaller bridge, what concerns me, if that mistake was made on that smaller bridge, and I know it was abutment, but we talked about this in our council meeting. If you go to replace the bridge and you know this abutment's bad and that bridge is 75 years old, what would make you think the other one wasn't deteriorated? You know, it worries me sitting here, and we're the purse strings of the county. So I don't want to approve a $39 million bridge and come back and say, hey, you know what, guess what? We missed it by 10 million. That's not going to sit well. That's my worries with this project.
Mr. Haas.
Thank you. Well said, Kevin. Appreciate that. Gentlemen, Fire Chief from Manitoba wants to know about weight restrictions. So we do, looks like the most, I would lean towards the middle alternative, obviously, the recommended one. Well, are we seeing decreases in the weight?
We would, with all three, we'd be returning it to legal load, standard. The only thing, I guess, with alternative one, the trust rehabilitation.
To be determined, you know, because obviously we haven't dove into the design on that. So you have to go a lot further into that to make that determination. But typically we strive our best to get those.
So option 2 would restore it.
2 and 3 would restore it fully to normal.
What's the width now?
21.
So that would increase it with the 32 feet.
Yes, correct. And option 3, yes.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Ms. Smith, I'm sorry.
On 2, again, just bringing up the question about the abutments and how that, you know, showed up after the fact. On number 2, I know you said you'd have to widen some of those piers. Are they going to be all brand new piers? And I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what the abutments have to do with those piers, but is that going to be all new?
We would be widening the abutments, and they'd be on both ends of the bridge. And then the piers, we'd be rehabilitating, finding the deteriorated concrete, patching that. But the top of the pier, we'd have to basically recap the top of the pier.
So some of that is existing.
Yes.
Is there a lifespan on it then, if you're just repairing it?
I would put it in the, that concrete probably in the 50 to 70, probably the 75-year range. I think you will have to you're gonna have to do more rehabilitation to those piers, say 34 years into it. It's gonna
could cost how much? So then you're pretty much going to be at, you know, how much money? Is it better to just with the third option, that's all brand new, right?
That's all brand new. That's all brand new.
So we could be looking at 30, 40 years down the road doing another how many $1 million by
yeah, you're right. There's definitely that potential for that one where you're doing a portion. To get into the exact dollars, I'm guessing if I told you now, there's definitely potential for it.
That's worrisome.
Go ahead, Ms.
Building off of Ms. McDermott and Mr. Liscavige, who both spoke about surprises in the previous bridge. I understand it's interesting to ask, can you tell us what surprises might be there? But you did speak about the current bridge having structural deficiencies that would be more and more difficult to inspect, and I think you said something the engineers would know what's in there. Speak more to the possible surprises. Does that make sense?
It's just alternative one. Alternative one is the one where we feel there's the most surprises. And
sure, most surprises, but how about alternative 2?
Alternative
like
2?
What kind of things would you?
I would think.
Do you normally see in these?
Well, during design, we would get out there initially. Some of our initial work, we would sound all of those piers just to verify the deterioration. And most of that, it's going to be sacrificial because you're not seeing it. If the inspection report revealed numerous vertical cracks, that there's movement, there's changes in settlement, then you have an issue. And then it's like, well, we can't reuse that, we got to avoid that. But you're not seeing any of that. You're just seeing some of what's called efflorescence, which is the white stuff, which is the line coming out. And you'll see some minor cracking. But typically you can, you'll sound those, which is you tap on a hammer, and you'll hear that it's hollow. And those are the bad areas. That's where the delamination is occurring on the surface of the concrete. You'll remove that, put welted wire fabric around it, and either gunite or just gunite, just spray concrete or sugar on it. But basically, it'll encapsulate the whole thing. The thing is, those are just so massive. It's mass concrete. I think those piers are about 3 foot wide, 2.5, 3 foot wide. So when you're dealing with mass concrete like that, the deterioration typically doesn't get terribly deep. So we feel comfortable with that recommendation based on that information. If these were of lesser size and quality, we would have to put it in. Now, the one thing to notice, the abutment on the SR11 side will be replaced with alternative. So we put in a new abutment against 11 and put several new piers through the Susquehanna River, and which those are the larger piers, and those are the piers that we're concerned with if something wrong. And then there's a couple piers in the floodway that also need to be replaced.
So the lifespan of a brand new one would be 100 years.
But and that's, you're going to have some maintenance, and you will have. You're going to have to do some work.
Do things have to be worked on? I know people never think so, right? But we're talking about 100 years. But can you give us an idea of, Mr. Durbert's question, how long it would be until we have to rehab alternative 2?
The superstructure, it's going to, you're still going to have that 100-year.
Yeah, the superstructure is all brand new.
Beams, the deck,
No, I know. That's
everything up top, but just those piers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the 40 to 50-year range is what I'm thinking.
That's a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, I think, and I think it's going to be the same because we're dealing with mass concrete. I still think what the issue is going to be is maybe that some of that concrete is going to start separating. And it just depends. If you can keep the water from the deck from getting down on top of that, it's fine. So that comes back to the maintenance side. We minimize the decks, the joints in the deck to prevent water from getting down. We put in what are called scuppers to collect the water, and then we pipe it down. If those scuppers are blocked, or if the pipes are broken off, or if they're not maintained, that it does allow water on those piers. And those piers will deteriorate quickly. So they can go a lot sooner if the maintenance isn't complete. If you continue to have, water with salt running and constantly hitting, it will be an issue. That's worst case. I think normally, that's 40 to 50.
Okay. I do want to hear worst case scenario. I want to know that.
Yeah.
Ms. Stevenson?
So earlier in your presentation, you said that alternative 2 we would be combating extra flooding, would be increased flooding due to the pier going from 3 to 4. How do we combat that with that project? And what does that look like for alternative 3 as well?
So alternative 2, we did put the additional pier into the river, and we removed 2 of the approach span piers to balance that. So as a net result, we provided more, they call it hydraulic opening, for the water to pass through, and it resulted in lower flooding when we ran our analysis for alternative 2. Alternative 3, we would also be able to improve the flooding in the area slightly. Now, alternative 3 is where the existing bridge would be in place while we construct the new bridge. And during that time, we will be blocking everything that the existing bridge is blocking, plus everything that the proposed bridge is blocking until we take down that existing bridge. So there will be a temporary condition where we will be blocking more of the stream. And that's kind of why on that final slide, you would have seen that received a moderate rating because it's a temporary impact to flooding. But the final product in 3 is an improvement to the flooding compared to the existing condition.
Has this 2?
2 is also an improvement, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Thornton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the piers, and this might help answer the questions that Ms. Smith and Ms. McDermott had. The piers that are there now, the existing piers, they're the original piers that were in the river 110 years ago.
Yes.
The ones in the river are the original.
Original.
Mhm.
And they're pretty good structurally, they're not compromised, right? They're pretty good shape.
They have some scour issues on them,
Yeah.
there's some abrasion, no settlement though, there is more cracking and stuff in them.
Right, but they're the original piers, and they held up pretty well.
They did.
It's interesting because those piers are almost identical to the ones upriver crossing Pittston and West Pittston. That bridge was built, it's almost identical to the bridge you're talking about here. The piers there in the river were put in 1914 or 1916, I think it was. And they're in fantastic shape now. And just to answer your questions, how long will they last in the future? Well, the piers under that bridge, which are similar to this bridge piers, they're the original from 1873. Before the bridge in Pittston, West Pittston was built in 1914, they left those piers there that were the original from 1873, right after the Civil War, when they built a wooden bridge across the river. And then in 1914, they took that wooden bridge down, left the piers where they are. And so we're still using the same piers for 150 years, and they are still in really good shape. So I don't know if that helps these questions here, but they way overbuilt piers back then. In those
That's
days.
what I was just going to say.
know?
They just overbuilt until
Yeah.
they knew.
I was just worried if they
couldn't
were the
fall down.
original piers or if they were put in the river like 50 years ago or not, but they probably weren't, right?
Correct. Yeah, they were the original piers from.
My second question is a finance question, and maybe Ms. Roselle can answer this. I don't know. Council over a year ago voted here to authorize the redevelopment authority to borrow, I think it was 50 million or low 50s, something like that. 55. Okay, so if council considered alternative 3 here, which is 64, where are we thinking, and this question might be for Ms. Roselle, where are we thinking of getting that other 9 million?
We haven't really talked about where.
Okay. Because that's money we don't have.
Correct.
Right? So we could say, yeah, that's a great alternative, let's build it, but then we don't have the money to pay for it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. At this point, we don't have the funds. We would have to make up that difference.
So right now, there's no state help with this at all, state financial help?
No, we didn't, but we didn't look into that. We wanted to present the different alternatives to council. If council wants to rebuild the bridge, we will go out and find more money, state money, federal money, whatever we would need to do. But right now, we don't have the money to make up the difference.
Thank you. I recall last year, the federal government in the wake of COVID passed a number of major post-COVID bills. One of them was the infrastructure bill for the infrastructure. And there was hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into Pennsylvania from the feds.
Yes.
For highways and bridges. So that might be a great source to consider. Because I would never be in favor of borrowing additional money at this point. Council has done a great job for 12 years. I have no credit to that. I'm only here 2 years, but council has not borrowed more money, and that's how they're paying down all that massive debt.
Just for your information, Michelle Sparich, who does our grants, who's extraordinary at what she does, just texted me that there is the bridge improvement program that may be opened to a federal program. And she believes that the applications are due in March, and we will review that as an option.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Haas, and then Mr. Sabatino.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, Ramilda, we had some stakeholders here tonight. It seemed like they were more interested in the replace option. And perhaps if they want to go beat the bushes from to Ms. Grokemo and council, they got LSA money available. There's a council of governments that might want to get involved in that. But that's still a pretty heavy lift. It's like $20 million more. I'd be predisposed to the recommendation of the designers.
There are alternatives. Yes, there are alternatives, and they're all options. And yeah, we will explore them. I mean, this is going to be my mantra. We're going to apply for whatever grant that we can possibly apply for. If we don't get the grant one year, we're going to reapply the next year. We're going to be very aggressive, and we don't want to leave any monies on the table. And if we can collaborate with municipalities to make a project even better, we'll be a part of that. But we will look into it. We will let you know the alternatives for funding, and then you can make a decision, include that in your decision as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And as to just one more thing, and as to change orders, we did send a memo out and an email out to all the division and the department heads. There are no change orders going forward without any kind of review from the county manager, from myself, and whatever department that is asking for the change orders. We're putting an end to that, and we're revamping the contracts. The Office of Laws updating the contracts to effectuate that.
We appreciate that, Manager Crookmo. With regards to federal grants, does that change design parameters? Do we have to go to a different standard based on federal grant monies?
The design standards would be the same, but the process would be a little different. It's just, there's different boxes that need to be checked.
Does it add additional, additional cost? Yeah, time?
It could.
Yeah. As the project gets delayed from getting approvals, every year it increases by a few percent based on materials and labor. And the time frame with federal money, as you know, the studies on the Pittston bridges, that's how long it would take to study this bridge using the federal process.
Any other questions? Anybody else on council? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, number 5, discussion regarding resolution urging the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission to deny the rate increase proposed by the Pennsylvania American Water Company. This resolution was drafted by Mr. Haas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's in the very last page of your packet, everybody. And so the gist of it is that the Pennsylvania American Water Company runs the water business, but it has to be approved by the Pennsylvania Utility Commission, PUC. And they have to ask for a rate increase. They just asked for one in December of 2022, and they came around and asked for another one. Costs have gone up for every American household, 20–25% inflation. I thought it was pretty egregious, and the reason behind it was it didn't really pass muster with me. So I was thinking about this, and then I saw that actually the representatives to the north of us in Lackawanna actually had like a mobilization to get regular citizens to go out and just say, hey, we want to fight this. We think this is wrong. And they went out and they encouraged people to file with the PUC. So I actually did that as a citizen, but I thought perhaps maybe Luzerne can be willing to take something like that on. I don't know if it's moot at this point because the PUC voted 5-0 to postpone this until August. But nonetheless, I mean, just for the record, I think it's a slam dunk resolution. So I don't think anybody wants to see their rates get hiked up by 25%. So with your consideration, I'd like to pass the voting session and obviously for what Manager Crookmo thinks about it, you know, if it's appropriate or timely, but that's it.
Thank you very much for your work on this, Mr. Haas. Any questions? All right, nothing further. We'll have public comment. Anybody in the audience? We have one member on the Zoom, Mr. Rabo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Mark Rabo from Hazleton. To piggyback off of what Councilman Lescavich said, I totally agree with him on the change orders, and I'm glad to hear that Manager Crookmo has implemented a policy change with regards to change orders being reviewed. That is great news and an update because of what transpired, as some of the council members would remember, with the prison roof and with the plumbing issues at the prison. With many change orders and nothing to explain those change orders or notify the manager at the time about those change orders when they were made. So getting back to also what the vice chairman said about the money for the Nanticoke Bridge to the $9 million void that would be needed for a total replacement. I did say to the county manager and to members of council, if you recall, Mr. Chairman, about the RAISE grant from the Federal Infrastructure Fund. This was under the Rebuilding Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity Discretionary Grant Program, also known as RAISE. So if the members of Nanticoke and Newport Township and all those municipalities want to see a total replacement, then I would suggest them to contact the county manager and yourself to apply for this RAISE grant, similar to what Pittston did with the bridge, with the Water Street Bridge, to do a grant, a federal DOT grant for total replacement. That way it would free up funds for the other municipalities that need county roads desperately to be constructed. So I hope, Mr. Chair, that you can take a leadership role with the rest of council to get that done if you're looking for a total replacement. And that is all I have. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rabo. Anybody else for public comment?
Motion adjourned.
Motion, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.